We are a Bangalore-based medical diagnostics company that's focused on point-of-care medical diagnostics. My own background is I have a PhD in chemical engineering at MIT, where I invented a technology for hydrogel biosensor production, which is widely used now, and forms, in some sense, the heart of our own technology platform. We've won several awards over the years, but more importantly, we believe we have a very good platform to do immunoassays, multiplexed immunoassays for the point of care. We've got a large patent portfolio, also with several issued patents across different geographies and strong business relationships established over the years. Our core team comprises 3 PhDs, again with from good schools in the US that head our platform engineering, assay product development, and business development, of course. We're an ISO 13485 certified company with our own pilot manufacturing facility. So we understand both technology development and do some pilot manufacturing of microfluidics ourselves. So I'll come to the problem statement and what we're trying to do here. Achira is focused at this point on hormone testing, and that's because thyroid disorders are a very significant problem in many parts of the world, including India. So 8% of Indians, that's about 100 million people, have hypothyroidism. And the challenge here is that only 1 out of 4 of them is diagnosed at this point. And while thyroid doesn't kill you immediately, it leads to several other critical conditions, including cardiovascular problems, infertility, and so on. And so it's important to diagnose, and it's very easy to treat. So finding those 3 out of 4 people that are not diagnosed at this point is really the problem that we're trying to solve. And that means you need to be able to do testing, not just in hospitals and larger labs and so on, but be able to do tests widely across a country like India, including in non-standard locations like malls, salons, and places like that. The current technology platforms that do this, obviously there's some great platforms available at central lab settings. And there's also at the other end, there's lateral flow technologies that do more semi-quantitative or qualitative readout. We feel that where we fit in and where our sweet spot really is to provide lab quality data, but with a portable instrument at the point of care. And in addition, to be able to do these tests as multiplex panels, so you're not doing just one test at a time, but you're able to do, with a capillary blood sample, say do 3 to 5 different tests at the same time. So that's really our differentiated value proposition. In terms of the technology, core technology itself, like I said at the beginning, it's based on these hydrogel sensor blocks. So you can think of them as micro sponges, basically, which have the ability to bind to analytes from your blood and give you a very strong fluorescent signal. And that's what leads to very low limits of detection and very sensitive results. So we mass manufacture these hydrogel sensors here in Achira, and we then embed them inside a plastic cartridge like this. And then you do a sequence of sample followed by a fluorescent detection agent and wash. And that fluorescent result, as shown here in the images, actually changes with the concentration of your analyte. So you have a calibration curve that looks something like this. You have factory calibrated cartridges that can give you nice quantitative data in the field. And you can multiplex simply by making an array of these sensors inside a cartridge. The user workflow is quite simple. So you withdraw capillary blood between 20 to 35 microliters of it. You then put that directly into the cartridge, or in some assays, you actually have to do one mixing step before you add it into the cartridge. And so this is quite simple, avoids the use of a phlebotomist, need for a phlebotomist, or the use of a centrifuge. We've also ensured this technology is manufacturable by being able to mass manufacture these sensors, and also having thought through in some detail the entire cartridge assembly process to ensure that you can actually mass manufacture these microfluidic cartridges. We've done quite a bit of clinical testing, validation of our first products, including some external testing, and we have peer-reviewed published data showing that our assay results are comparable to the gold standard instruments available in the lab. In terms of the actual tests that we have, our initial focus is on the thyroid panel shown here, TSH, T4, T3, as well as some vitamin testing and some male and female fertility hormones. And this is for our first customer contract, as I'll tell you in a little bit. But really, it's a plug-and-play platform on which you could do any immunoassay. And these are about 30% of all lab tests. So interestingly, in this context, we've done in the past a fever panel for Becton Dickinson, which is really to diagnose fevers of unknown origin. And obviously in this COVID era, we're very interested in expanding and including a COVID test. So we recently got some government funding to expand this into a fever panel that can diagnose and differentiate between different fever-causing agents, including COVID. So that's our technology platform. It comprises a small portable reader as well as a plastic disposable cartridges that can do different tests. And this is going to be available in the clinic in a regulatory approved form middle of 2021. Our business model is to actually work with pharma companies to scale this up. So we really think of ourselves as a technology and product development company that works with manufacturing partners and commercial partners. So we've got a letter of intent from a large global pharma company that will enable us to deploy this product across 10,000 doctors' offices in India over the next 3 years. And that includes about 10 million cartridges, leading to about $20 million in cumulative revenue over the next 3 years. So we're focused right now on delivering these thyroid and vitamins to this first customer, but we would like to use this as a springboard to new products, new geographies, new customers, and expand our test offerings over the next 2 to 3 years. So what we're really doing here at this event is to actually pitch to potential investors and strategics that are looking for interesting technology companies that have good quality point of care products. We're looking to raise about $5 million to fund our cartridge and instrument scale up, as well as expanding to new geographies, business development efforts, and further product and assay development. So I will stop at this point and take any questions.
Terrific. Nice presentation. So I'm curious, so that letter of intent and that first customer you mentioned before, so is that a, because you're putting a lot of weight in, that first customer deployment, what's it going to take to get to that deployment?
Yeah, in fact, that's sort of the reason for the fundraise too. What it's going to take really is 2 or 3 different things. One is actually complete the development of all of these assays. So we've demonstrated 2 or 3 of them, and we need to show another 2 of them basically. The second is actually the capital investment for the cartridge manufacturing, which is about $1 million. There's an instrument development and scale up, which needs another $1.5 to $2 million. And the continuing product development for the other assays is the rest. So those are the 3 major buckets here that need to be completed before we get to that.
And is that customer somebody who might potentially be an investor as well?
They're willing to give us an advance at the time that we've got through the regulatory approval, so an advance against the year's purchases. But they're not willing to be invested. They're not set up like that. They're a pharmaceutical company. So the short answer is no.
Okay, very good. All right, I'm going to let some of the other judges ask questions, and I'll come back with more. So other judges, do you guys have questions?
Thank you for your presentation. This is Ryota Megaki from Nipro Corporation, Japanese medical device company. So yeah. I might missed your explanation, and could you explain regarding cost of equipment and cartridge?
Sure. Actually, I didn't mention that. So
okay.
The model here is actually to give away this instrument at less than cost from our point of view, and probably the pharmaceutical company will give it to the customers at close to nothing. So we'll be selling to them at about $100 to $150 the instrument. So it's a small portable instrument. It isn't that expensive, but that's the sort of price point that we will be selling to them. We're going to be losing money on that. The cartridges are going to be priced anywhere from $1.50 to $3 US, depending on the particular test panel. And the gross margins on the cartridges are anywhere from 30 to 50%. And that's what actually enables us to sort of subsidize the readers. And really, we're looking at this as, the Trojan horse, as they say, that once you have this platform installed, you could come in with other tests which have potentially higher gross margins and so on.
So regarding equipment, you mentioned 100 to...
Yes, $100 to $150. Yes.
$50. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, other questions? Anyone else have other questions?
Hey, Dhananjay, great presentation. And maybe a quick question on your core technology, right? So right now you have thyroid as one of the parameters, but when you start to expand to other parameters like vitamins D3 and others, right? Do you still have the same hydrogel that can be used, or do you have to change that into a different binding agent, I'm assuming, or some modulation over that for others, or how do you plan to do that?
Yeah, no, that's an important question. Actually, the core materials chemistry itself remains the same. Obviously, the antibody will change from test to test, and that's really we're taking off-the-shelf antibodies that are available. We're not making them ourselves. The core sensor chemistry basically remains the same, but there are some important differences depending upon the analyte, and this is to do actually with the size of the molecule. So, like, this is a 3D sponge-like material, right? So depending on the size of the analyte, we kind of vary the chemistry a little bit so that you can nicely diffuse all of that material to the core of the sensor.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
And one of the questions I had, is kind of what you're looking for, in particular, what you're hoping to get out of this program. What in particular are you looking for, either from MedTech Innovator or from our partners? What are some things that they could help you with?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you for selecting Achira into this, and certainly, I think some global exposure for the company is very important at this point. India is a market that is not in insurance driven, so it's all patient pay model, and so it's got its own unique challenges in terms of extreme pressure on price points and things like that. So I think as a core technology company, being able to extend this value proposition to other markets that might make more sense to the business is very important for us. And honestly, not being able to find the right platform to actually talk to people in Asia. I mean, I spent some time in the US, have some network there, but I don't have much of a network at all in Asia, which is why I signed up for the Asia program and hoping to connect to more people here. So that's an important thing for us going forward. So both sort of strategic relationships that can help us scale to some of these markets, as well as for some financial investment to enable that market.
Got it. And the strategic, the manufacturer that you've been talking about so far on the pharma side, have you been reaching out to others as well, or how did that relationship come about?
Yeah, as you can imagine, with some of these larger companies, it takes time to actually even get it to this point and get all of the stakeholders aligned and get to the actual legal documents, right? So we've burnt quite a bit of bandwidth doing that. So right now I'm looking at that as the springboard. We've had several other conversations, and nothing restricts us from having these other conversations. But I believe that I'd like to look at non-India markets and not look at other Indian customers at this point, and really use this, like I said, as a platform. So we are in early stage conversations with several others that will accelerate once this gets to a more execution stage.
Okay, I'll pause there and see if anyone else has any other questions they want to go with before I keep going. All right, so judges, just let me know if you guys have other questions. So, so going back then to kind of that, that one MNC that you were talking about. So do you have, so let's say that doesn't work out. What's the, and I know, as you said, you burned a lot of time, on that and preparing for that. So if for some reason that doesn't move ahead, what's your plan right now?
Yeah, obviously important question. I think we've spoken to several people. Paul, this is the one that, like I said, got to some legal documentation type of stage. So there's a couple of things that we do. I think one is actually there are larger just distribution companies even in India that are looking for point of care immunoassay products, not just for doctors' offices, but even for small labs. And they don't even need the finger stick of blood. They just need serum-based tests that are low throughput machines, basically, for these contexts. Mm-hmm. So there's several of those that are interested. That would be a more distribution kind of relationship. And I think on the back of either that, or we'd get started with just that and our first generation product. That's what I'd probably do. Doesn't give us the kind of tremendous scale that this pharma deal is giving us, but that would be sort of option B in terms of entry into the market.
And you feel like you have the right team at this point to hit those next milestones, or you're going to have to, or you still have some gaps?
We do have some gaps. I think right now I'm taking on the role of both CEO and business development. I think we need somebody that is actually has existing relationships in, let's say, pharma or other companies, the medical devices space, especially outside India, that can bring in more of these kinds of deals. I think that would be an important person to bring on board over the next year or so. I mean, we're always, of course, I think looking for better in engineering and so on. But in terms of senior team, I would say that's the major gap at this point. And as we execute on this, I think some more financial type people, because it will become financial operational execution will become very important for this kind of a deal.
Okay, thank you.
One more question. Regarding your unique hydrogel sensor, how long is the shelf life at the room temperature?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, part one of the answer there is we're able to actually dry out these hydrogel sensors, which is important to improving their shelf life. So we have some formulation and process by which we're able to dry these out. And for some of our assays, we've shown at room temperature quantitative recovery up to 3 months. That is, the calibration curve doesn't change. But you can go up to 6 months if using some algorithms and things like that. Of course, if you store at 4 degrees, you get longer shelf life.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe another question that I had from before too, as I was listening to the presentation, was thinking about kind of the the competitive landscape. So going back, let's see, you have your competitive slide. So in your particular space, and again, you're focusing mainly on thyroid as the initial market, right?
Yeah, thyroid and vitamins. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So in that space, from a cost perspective, it seems like you're significantly going to be less, significantly less, price, the ASP for this. So I guess the question is, are the other lateral flow, et cetera, can they bring down the price on those to be competitive with you? Or I know you have other advantages as well, but I'm just curious, can you think the others can also compete on price?
Yeah, that's obviously a concern. And in fact, I know for a fact that the company that we're talking to has gone to some of these. So first of all, there's a lot of lateral flow players around, but there's only 1 or 2 that have cracked quantitative lateral flow. All right. So you can't go to just all of them and do the same thing. And among those, I think those companies find, of course, is that their own value proposition is stronger, let's say in the US. So you can sell the same thyroid test at $10 in the US, you don't want to give it away for $2 in India. So this is not their priority to do right now. But if they really wanted to kill us, they could kind of offer better pricing. I know they've been asked and they won't at this point.
Okay. And so it's portable, low-cost testing, as you said, that's your value prop.
Multiple analytes, I guess, Paul, is important too, because especially in a context where you want to do a lot of these, all the lateral flows are really single test at a time. So if you can combine things into panels, then it's got a certain value proposition.
Right. Well, so what would be the big, we only have 55 seconds, but so the panel, I guess the most compelling panel then would be what?
I think in the COVID era, honestly, a fever of unknown origin panel, which we actually did, I think would be very compelling going forward for the next year or so, where you could, let's say, distinguish between COVID versus, like, say, SARS-1 or MERS and things like that. That's something that I think has an obvious immediate value. But expanding on the hormone panels itself, combining things like thyroid with also A1C, for example. So you're kind of clubbing both the diabetes and the thyroid together. I think those things also have obvious values. So kind of clubbing more and more of these, common testing panels together in one has also some, I would say, strong value